Have you ever wondered if there's a universal formula for creating incredible soup recipes? Something you could follow for just about any type of soup made from freeze-dried and shelf-stable ingredients? Well, today I'm going to show you a fail-safe framework for making incredible soups. I'll walk you through each step, everything from aromatics to flavor enhancers, vegetables, proteins, liquids, all the way to fantastic finishers. When I'm done, you really won't need me anymore. You'll be able to create mouth-watering, satisfying, and craveable soups, stews, and chowders with the freeze-dried and shelf-stable ingredients that you've got sitting in your pantry. Well, hi there, everyone. My name is Kareth. I'm a wife, a mom, an author, and a cook. On this channel, I like to create recipes using freeze-dried food. Sometimes it's completely shelf-stable, like a meal or a mix in a jar. Other times, I combine freeze-dried with fresh, but all the time, it's delicious. I'm here to help people who have freeze-dried food on their shelves to know how to cook with it. I test out recipes so you don't have to. Welcome to the Freeze-Dried Foodie. Please don't be intimidated by all the ingredients you see out on my countertop. You don't need all these at once. They're just examples of the options you have for creating the recipes. I have about 8 categories of building blocks for soup recipes, and I'm going to walk you through each one of them. You probably already know all of this. You do it anytime you cook, but I thought it might be helpful to kind of break it down into steps and talk about why they're all important. I learned this from Chef Joshua Weissman. He has a YouTube channel. Now, the first category is what I call aromatics. This is what I start almost all of my soups with. It's called a mirepoix in French cooking. It's onions, celery, and carrots. I have recently started buying my mirepoix from freeze-dry wholesalers because all of the ingredients are freeze-dried in there. I really like them, and they chop them the same size as each other, which is helpful whenever you're cooking. But if you don't have the mirepoix from freeze-dry wholesalers, you can definitely piece this together. I prefer freeze-dried carrots, but not everybody has that. If you're using dehydrated carrots, definitely you can do that. Just know that their flavor is very concentrated. They tend to be overly sweet, so you might have to just watch the amounts you put in there if you're using the dehydrated carrots. These ingredients are foundational in flavor. They create a base for your broth. You need a base for your flavor. So it's a starting point. That is where you're going to start, is your mirepoix. And then you're going to add to that some fat. This is key in cooking. Fats are very important. Fats equal flavor, and you can choose what kind of fat you want to add. I like to add olive oil. You might be a big fan of butter. You could also use avocado oil or coconut oil. It's up to you. But if you will add just a bit of fat, I think you'll be surprised at the difference in the flavor. It creates just a depth of flavor, and it's really, really nice if you'll include that even with freeze-dried ingredients. All right, next we're going to move on to what I call the filler category. It's going to have 2 sections, but basically vegetables and starches are going to be the fillers of your soup. So if you're wanting to do low carb, just skip this starchy section. But a lot of times soups have some sort of starchy fillers in them, whether it be noodles or rice or some sort of beans. I've got some shelf-stable tortellini here, but all of those things are options for you. You can choose whichever one you like. And then next, of course, we're going to look at the vegetables you're going to add to your soup. This is probably the majority of what's going to go in your soup, I'm guessing. And it's totally up to you what vegetables you choose. You just need to know that each one is going to have its own unique flavor and texture. So keep that in mind when you choose what vegetables you want to put in. I like to put a variety of vegetables. I just kind of have to have in mind what type of soup I want in the end, and then choose based on that what vegetables I'm going to include. For instance, if I'm going for something with an Italian theme, I might pull out the zucchini, the green and red bell peppers, maybe some kale, spinach, tomatoes, that kind of thing. If I'm going for some sort of soup that has like a Mexican Tex-Mex taco theme, I'm going to lean towards the black beans, the corn, the green chili peppers, the green onions, the red bell peppers. Does that make sense? If I'm doing something that's more traditional, like a chicken pot pie soup or creamy soup or something like that, I might grab the potatoes, the green peas, the corn. I hope that makes sense. Whatever you want for your end result will determine what vegetables you put into your soup. Just try to remember that there are no hard and fast rules. You are the master of your own kitchen, so you can determine what vegetables you want to put in your soup. I've got a soups cookbooklet. It's got a ton of soup recipes in there, and I love mushrooms. If you don't love mushrooms, don't put the mushrooms in your soup. Don't feel like you have to stick to a certain recipe because it's your soup. So feel free to add whatever ingredients you enjoy. Moving on to the flavor enhancers category. I love this category, y'all. This is probably my favorite category. And that's just because there are so many options for the direction that you can take your soups that come from the flavor enhancers category. This is everything from seasonings and herbs and bouillon powders to pastes and sauces, sauce mixes, garlic. This is the category where your flavor palette just opens wide up and you can take your soup in so many different directions. Even if you have similar vegetables in your soup, this category is the one that determines the flavor profile in the end. So like so many options, I just love this category. I'm including bouillon powders in here and also any kind of pastes like curry paste or miso paste. I'm including soy sauce and Worcestershire sauce, as well as those Thrivalist sauce powders. So if you're wanting your soup to end up to be kind of creamy, you'll use the bechamel sauce, or if you want cheesy, or if you want beefy or tomatoey, all of those Thrivalist sauce powders I have copycat recipes for, and I will link to those below. And you can combine a lot of these things. You don't have to just choose one or the other, and that'll give you a real depth of flavor in your soup. All right, let's move on to the proteins category. This is optional. This whole category is optional. If you want to do a vegetable soup, just skip this whole thing. But if you decide you are going to add the proteins, then you need to decide what type of protein you're adding. And I'm not really talking about, am I adding chicken or beef? I'm talking about what type of food you're adding, as in freeze-dried or canned or fresh or frozen, that kind of thing. So once you determine what type of protein you're adding, then that will determine when you add it to your soup. So if you're adding freeze-dried meats, you're going to need to add those towards the beginning when you add the liquid, because they'll need to rehydrate, of course. If you're going to add something that's frozen, you might do the same thing and add it towards the beginning of the cook time. If you are going to use, canned chicken or a pre-cooked rotisserie chicken, something like that, then you can add that at the very end of cooking, in the last 3 or 4 minutes or something like that, if it just needs to heat through. So whatever protein you decide to add, that's going to determine at what point in the cooking process that you add the protein. All right, let's move on to liquids. So of course you're going to need to add liquid, right? And you can add just plain water if that's what you want to do, especially if you're adding a flavor enhancer like a bouillon powder. But if you want to, you can add chicken bouillon, beef bouillon, veggie bouillon, or stock or bone broth, or whatever you want there. I typically add water to my soups just because I use the bouillon powders. All right, finally, let's look at the fantastic finishers. These are the ingredients that finish out your soup. And I'm including things like heavy cream or half and half, or sour cream, any kind of cheese you want to add, or any kind of acid you're going to add, as in a squeeze of lime or lemon or a splash of red wine vinegar, something like that. a drizzle of sesame oil. I'm calling all of those fantastic finishers, and these are the things that just round out the soup and you add at the very end. They don't take long. You don't really cook them for a long time. So these fantastic finishers are just gonna, put your soup over the top and make it extra yummy. So there you have the 8 basic categories of what goes into a great soup. As long as you start with steps 1 and 2 and end with step 8, the ones in the middle can go in any order that makes sense to you. Now I'm going to write the basic formula down in the description box below, along with proportions of each of these, so you can create with confidence. In just a sec, I'll show you an example of a soup that I came up with on the fly, based on ingredients that needed to be used, and the type of soup I was feeling hungry for that particular day. Once you decide what vibe you're going for, then you can start to build a yummy soup. On this particular day, I decided I needed about 3 or 4 servings of soup, and so I got out a large Dutch oven, and however many servings you want is going to determine, how much of these ingredients you put in there. But anyway, you'll want to start with steps 1 and 2, which is the aromatics or the mirepoix and the fat or the oil. So because I'm making a soup that's going to be kind of creamy and cheesy, I went ahead and started with the basic mirepoix, which is onion, celery, carrots. If you're going to make a Cajun type soup, you might want to start with their Holy Trinity, which is onions, celery, and green bell peppers. And then, of course, the Pope, which is garlic. All right, now I do like to saute my veggies first and hydrate them a little bit. You can totally skip this step. Half the time I do. I just dump everything in there, hydrate it all together, and then skip this whole sauteing process because it's faster. But I wanted to show you, this will give you a little extra flavor if you're willing to do it. It takes an extra probably 3 or 4 minutes. But, sometimes you just might be in the mood and might think it's worth it. So what I've done is I've put some oil down. I've got the heat to medium, added the mirepoix, and then I have rehydrated that. Eventually that water will be absorbed into those freeze-dried ingredients and it'll cook off. And then you can saute that for a couple of minutes and give you a little bit of extra flavor. Then you can start adding your other vegetables. So since I had decided I was in the mood for a creamy and cheesy soup, I decided I would add some zucchini, butternut squash, red bell peppers, mushrooms, kale, and green onions. And y'all, I just thought those sounded good. There's no rhyme or reason. I picked ingredients that I thought would be good in something creamy and cheesy. You can choose whatever ingredients you want. You can choose how much of each of the ingredients you want. So if I was going to give like a general proportion, I would say maybe 1 part mirepoix to 2 to 3 parts vegetables and fillers to maybe 1 part protein. That's just a general guideline, y'all. That's a general guideline. You can definitely customize that and tweak that. All right, now I'm adding some flavor enhancers in the form of herbs, seasonings. I did put a little bit of tomato sauce in there. You could use tomato powder. I added some garlic. And then I added a little bit of extra oil. And basically this part here that I'm doing, I'm calling it a dry saute. My heat is still on medium. You don't want anything too crazy hot because most of those ingredients are not rehydrated. You want to keep your heat kind of mild. And then I just like to stir this around. What it's doing is it is coating the rest of those vegetables in some oil and in all those seasonings, adding a little bit of heat and just getting a little bit of flavor all around. That only lasts for 1 minute. You don't want to saute that for any longer than 1 minute. Go ahead and add your liquid in there. And that day I just added water, and it's because I had put some chicken bouillon in with the seasonings. So that's the equivalent of adding chicken broth. Stir the pot, get up any of the browned bits that were on the bottom. You want those in your broth and not stuck to the bottom, of course. And then you can add some more flavor enhancers. So I'm adding some bechamel sauce to give it some creaminess, and it will help thicken it as well. I'm also adding some cheese sauce, which will, of course, give it some cheesiness and, again, a little bit of thickness. The soup is going to have a little bit of body with those sauce powders in there. And I have copycat recipes for those. I'll link those below. I added a little bit of the gochujang, and that is just because it adds some heat to it, some spice. These choices are completely and totally up to you. I've never added gochujang in a soup that I have a cream powder and a cheese powder in before. I've never done that before. I tried it today. Guess what? I liked it. I thought it was great. And it was just a little bit of it. So you could add a little dash of soy sauce. You could add a dash of Worcestershire. Just try things and see if you like them. And if you don't do them again next time. Now I'm adding that shelf-stable tortellini to add some starchiness to it, the pasta. And I decided I was going to use up some of the meatballs that I had in my freezer. They really need to get used or else they're going to get freezer burn. So I threw in some frozen meatballs. I added a bay leaf. And then I just bring this all to a boil. And then you need to cook it for as long as those ingredients need to be cooked, which is typically 10 to 12 minutes, something like that. And I did turn my heat down to about a 4 out of 10 on my stove. I came along every once in a while and I gave it a stir because I didn't want anything to stick. But y'all, it's not rocket science. It's just soup, and soup's fairly forgiving. You can rescue this by adding other things. For instance, if you think it's too thick, add some more water. When you give it a taste, if it doesn't taste good to you, add some more seasonings. If the seasonings are too strong, add some more liquid, just water. Now let's move on to the fantastic finishers. I decided to add some heavy cream because I told y'all I wanted a creamy soup, and I'm adding some cheese. This time it's Parmesan. And I could have used freeze-dried Parm, but I didn't. Today I had some fresh Parm and I grated it straight in there. And this is like the very end of cooking. I might have let that melt for a minute or two, and that was it. And then you can give it a taste, adjust. If you don't like what you're tasting, add something else. If you want it thicker, add some mashed potato flakes. Or, if you're doing a Tex-Mex, you could add some freeze-dried refried beans, and that will help to thicken your soup. Just, you have so many options of what to do to make your soup delicious. And now it's ready to serve up. I garnished this with some chives that I had growing out back. And yeah, that's all there is to it. It's beautiful, isn't it? We ate it by itself, but I think it would be great with some crusty bread or maybe a salad. And like most soups, this soup reheated beautifully. Now, as far as something like a recipe goes, what I'll do is I'll put down in the description box the approximate amounts that I put in this soup today. And I'll try to keep it really generalized. Like I had mentioned earlier, like 1 part this to 2 parts that. These ideas I'm sharing with you today, they are guidelines, okay? It's not an exact recipe. So I will include that in the description box below, and hopefully that will help you as you take a look at what you have in your pantry, take an inventory, see what needs to be used up, decide like what vegetables you like, what flavors you like, what soups you want to try. Now, of course, if you need exact recipes, I have several options for you. I have 2 complete cookbooks and 1 soups cookbooklet. I am working on a few other cookbooklets. I think they're pretty great just because they're focused on one certain subject. And let's say you're not interested in an entire cookbook, but you really love breakfast recipes. Well, then that would be a good thing for me to have, right? A breakfast cookbooklet. So anyway, I am working on those. They are forthcoming. As far as 2026 goes, Y'all, I can't believe it's about 2026. Ay, ay, ay. I am thinking at this point that I am going to slow down a little bit and do maybe just one recipe a week. I looked on my channel and y'all, there are 250 plus recipes on my channel for using freeze-dried and shelf-stable ingredients. That's a lot of recipes. So if you're needing a carrot fix and it's not a day for a new recipe to come out, please do look through my channel, look through my playlists, and, just watch an entire playlist if you want an idea for a certain type of food or whatever. I would really appreciate that. And I think I'll just slow down a bit. I have some things I would like to work on personally. And yeah, I think I'll just take some time and do that in 2026. Well, all right, guys. Thank y'all for watching, for spending part of your day with me. I really do appreciate you. If you find value in my content, please hit the like button, leave me a comment, consider subscribing. All those things really help my channel, and that helps me to continue to do what I do. All right, y'all, I have a verse of the day for you, 2 Corinthians 5:17, and it reads, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old things have passed away. Behold, new things have come." My former pastor, Bruce, he used to say this a lot. He would say, God is gracious and his word is true. So let's remember that as we head into the new year. I would like to wish you all a very happy new year and have a blessed week, a wonderful day. And until next year, y'all, y'all take care and keep thriving.